Hello and welcome to another edition of Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, Public Information Officer for the Morris County Government. Focus on Morris County is a program that's designed to keep us up to date on the actions that are being taken by the Morris County Board of Freeholders. And the show is also intended to make us all more aware of the many facets of Morris County government. For example, on this segment of the program, we are going to learn about the Morris County Freeholders Advisory Committee on Women. This is an advisory panel that the Freeholders created back in December of 2003 and whose first members were appointed by the Freeholders the following year in 2004. Here to explain a bit about the Advisory Committee on Women and some of the issues that it is dealing with are my guests. First, to my left is Ada Visake. I hope I pronounced the last name correctly.
Fine.
All right, Ada, thank you. And seated next to Ada is Virginia Little. Ladies, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having us.
Both ladies are members of the Advisory Committee on Women. Ada, let me start with you. What can you tell us about the committee itself and what the mission or function of the committee is?
We're a group of women concerned about women's issues. There's currently 14 of us. And we advise the freeholders about women's issues that are important to us and make them aware of issues that are, especially from Morris County, that are important to women's issues.
Yeah, and we'll be getting to some of those issues in a minute, but so how are you appointed? Do the freeholders appoint you?
Yes. I was recommended, personally I was recommended by another woman I knew, and she recommended us, and then there was an interview process, and then we were recommended to the freeholders, and they make the decision.
Virginia Little, how and when did you become involved in the Advisory Committee on Women?
Well, I had worked on trying to get a committee for women established, and then about 5 years ago I was asked to join the committee, and I've been part of it ever since. We work on things like pay equity, we work on child care, which is a big issue for women, families, homelessness, especially if there's children involved, anything that would affect women and families.
And financial issues for women, because women live longer, so one of the concern is that they have enough money to live the rest of their life on.
Yeah. Ada, you said you were recommended by somebody for a spot on the committee. Had you inquired about the committee, or did someone just say, hey, I think you'd be a good fit?
To be honest, I never knew anything about it. But I've always been involved in women's issues. I've always hired women, helped them with their careers. So I've been involved. That's probably why she recommended to me. But it should be known more. We didn't even know that I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this will help to remedy that situation. Virginia, one of the issues that the Advisory Committee on Women has been focusing on of late is the issue of human trafficking. Earlier this year, of course, in February, the Super Bowl was held in New Jersey, and that raised some concern among the Advisory Committee on Women and several other groups about the possibility of an increase in human trafficking. First, let's back up a little bit. What exactly is human trafficking?
Human trafficking is when somebody is coerced into sexual acts or into working for somebody without pay. They're totally controlled.
And this is a serious problem?
It's modern day slavery. There's more slaves in the United States now than there was in 1878 when the Emancipation Proclamation was written.
Now, I mentioned that this all seemed to come to the forefront because the Super Bowl was coming to New Jersey.
Yes.
What was it about that event coming here to the Garden State that raised the concern among the Advisory Committee and several other groups?
Well, you have thousands of men coming generally by themselves, and it's a perfect opportunity for traffickers to bring young girls in and allow them to ply their trade, and it makes a huge amount of money for women, for the traffickers, not for the women. They start as young as the age of 12, and they're brought in, they're bought, and as many as 40 men a day they would service.
The efforts on the part of the Advisory Committee on Women and these other groups to call attention to this problem, what were some of the things that the various groups did to bring this to the public's attention? Ada?
Well, we educated hotels around the area and their workers. So we brought in pamphlets so that they would recognize, for example, if there was a bunch of women coming in at once, for example, and going to one room. Those are the kind of things that we tried to make them aware, and Ginny knows even more about.
There was the soap initiative. The soaps were little dial soaps that were wrapped with the hotline number that was on it, so that if you were trafficked, sometime, it's an easy number to remember, and sometime you could contact them and say, here's where I am, please rescue me. Yeah. We wanted towns to do proclamations, to say that January 11th was Human Trafficking Day. We just raised awareness, because we're the eyes and the ears for the police of where bad things are happening.
And we should mention that the Morris County Freeholders did indeed issue a proclamation that declared January 11th of 2014 to be Human Trafficking Day. And this is going to be a yearly event, you think, to call attention to this serious problem. Well, what about here in Morris County? I mean, is human trafficking a problem here in Morris County?
Yes, it's a problem all over. Any place where they can bring women or girls, young boys also, to be serviced. You can now order them online to be delivered to a certain hotel or to a certain place, a particular party. New Jersey has done one of the best human trafficking bills in the country, according to Polaris, which is a group that monitors this. The one part of the bill that is now in litigation is the fact that we asked that all of the email sites, all of the sites where these girls can be advertised, cease and desist. And they have fought back because it's very lucrative. This is one of the ways they sell their girls. And it's now in the courts, and they say it's their personal right to be able to free speech.
Yeah. The internet has really increased this problem. These girls, as Ginny said, they order them online. So that's been one of the, I believe, one of the reasons why, it's slavery, modern day slavery has increased so much.
It's very hard to monitor that because it's not them standing on street corners anymore. They've moved it inside to hotels and motels. Going back to the soaps, they wrap the soap with a number, and then we drop 100 or 200 of these soaps off at the smaller family-owned motels, not the big chains like Marriott or whatever, who has their own. And this way, a girl could quietly just memorize the number, and it's there. It was started by a woman who had been trafficked from her home. And she said the only time that she was alone was in the bathroom.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that this is a problem that is difficult to monitor. I would imagine that the results of your efforts were also difficult to gauge, correct? I mean, how do you know if you were successful or not? It must be difficult to
We did hear that just about the time of the Super Bowl, that we had also dropped off flyers of missing children. Right. It was the New Jersey Coalition of Human Trafficking that had put this all together, and we dropped off the flyers. And 5 or 7 of those children had been rescued. So somebody spotted them, called the number, and came. We don't want anybody to be heroes. They're to call the police or that number and say, look, we think that there's something not right going on. Could you please check?
Yeah. And we keep mentioning that number. We're going to give that number to you in just about a minute or so. But, okay, so the Super Bowl is gone. What about the problem? I'm assuming the problem still
here. Problem is still here. There's 100 or so organizations that are part of this human trafficking coalition. AAUW, American Association of University Women, is the one I represent. There's the Junior League, there's church-based, there's League of Women Voters. all sorts of organizations. We can't stop the problem until we can convince people not to purchase.
Another area that we need to educate is the police department, so that they recognize it, that not every woman went into prostitution voluntarily, but that they were forced. So we need to educate, I think, the police department, so they recognize and they ask.
Yeah. Was this, Ada, was this a real eye-opener for you?
It really and truly was. Until I became part of the Women's Advisory to the Freeholders, I never knew that this exists. Of course, I knew there was,
Right.
prostitution, but I never knew that so much of it was so prevalent.
Yeah.
The one thing is that it is the second or third, depending on who you talk to, most lucrative crime there is. You can only sell guns or drugs once. You can sell a girl or a young boy over and over
Yes.
again.
Now, I know that there are other issues, in fact, we mentioned them at the start of the program, that the Advisory Committee on Women is working on here in Morris County. Could you just reiterate what some of those issues are?
Well, we had
Sure.
a seminar last year on pay equity,
Okay.
Childcare.
Child care.
childcare.
The women live longer, so that their money, so it's wealth, education,
Yeah.
so that they have enough money to live on.
Yeah.
One of our programs was about the princess syndrome.
Oh,
You
yes.
think that a young man is going to support you for the rest of your life, and you don't have to go to school, you don't have to get a career.
That's-
And we're trying to break that, the fact that it's not true. Women become widows, or they never marry, or for whatever reason they have to support themselves. And Prince Charming doesn't necessarily live here.
Exactly. That's another, you would think that in the 21st century would be a little more advanced,
Yeah.
but it's still there, the way we're raised women, girls.
I want to give our viewers some contact information for the Morris County Freeholders Advisory Committee on Women. If you wanted to become involved, if you wanted to learn more about the committee itself, you can do so through the Morris County Department of Human Services at 973-285-6863. You can also visit the department's website at morrishumanservices.org. Now, we had been talking about the number for the National Human Trafficking Resource Center, and that number is also up on the screen. It is 1-888-373-7888, and the website to learn more about human trafficking is and this is all one word, traffickingresourcecenter.org. Ladies, I want to thank you very much for
for
being
having
with us
us.
today, Ada and Virginia, for explaining in great detail what the Freeholders Advisory Committee on Women is up to these days. Now, if you have a question about Morris County government that you would like to have answered, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office at 973-285-6010. You can visit the county government's website at morriscountynj.gov. Once you're up there, why don't you sign up for the county's electronic newsletter, and you can also visit the various social networking sites that the Morris County government embraces. I'm Joe Garifo. Thank you very much for being with us, but don't go away because we will be right back.
Are you pregnant, scared, or a new mother who can't care for your newborn?
There's a safe haven in New Jersey.
You or a friend can bring an infant to any hospital or police station and give up custody safely, legally, and anonymously.
No questions asked. No shame, no blame, no names.
Call 1-877-839-2339 or visit njsafehaven.org to learn more. Remember,
New Jersey has a safe haven for unwanted infants.
Brought to you by the New Jersey Department of Children and Families.
Welcome back to Focus on Morris County. I'm Joe Garifo, and on this segment of the program, we are going to be discussing some county government issues with my guest. He is Morris County Freeholder John Cesaro. Freeholder Cesaro is a former Parsippany councilman who joined the Freeholder Board in June of 2012. Freeholder, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start by talking about the 2014 Morris County budget.
Yes.
For the second year in a row this year, the Freeholders adopted a budget that contains a 0% increase in the taxes that are used to fund county government. How was the board able to do that for the 2 years in a row?
First and foremost, Joe, thank you for having me here today. And that is correct regarding the no tax increase. There were many, many factors that went in to achieving this goal, but some of the more prominent factors, one was increased revenue from the Morris County Clerk's Office. Another prominent factor that contributed to this was changes in salaries in terms of reducing headcounts and also being just very aggressive in wanting to stay within the 2% cap. And one last prominent factor, again among many factors, was reining in on healthcare costs, having employees kick in a share of their payments, of the healthcare payments, and also really looking out for more cost-effective vendors to provide health insurance coverage.
One of the aspects of the county budget that has gotten a lot of attention of late is the portion of the capital budget that is used to fund road repaving here in Morris County. Now, if I'm correct, the Freeholders added $2.6 million in county funds to the $2.2 million that they were already investing in repaving county roads this year. Why such a focus on this area here in 2014?
Very simple, and I'm very confident that every Morris County resident can agree this was a very, very bad winter. And the Freeholders met with mayors from all over the county, probably almost every mayor, council people, business administrators, their DPW heads, and there was one prominent issue on their mind, one prominent issue. And for once it wasn't taxes, it was the condition of the roads. And we all know, again, that was a result of a bad winter.
And I know that not only the municipal officials, elected and appointed officials, but the Freeholders were getting emails from members of the public who also expressed the same concerns, correct?
Absolutely. Many of those phone calls were made while people were stuck inside a pothole. So,
now, we're talking about an increase in investment. What is this going to enable the county to do? I mean, are we going to be able to increase the mileage, let's say, of the roads that we repave over a normal year? Basically, a lot of the increase in funding is going to go naturally towards repairing roads. Right. Some of the money is going towards equipment like the quote-unquote hot boxes. Right.
That will help repair potholes. And just repairing roads and whatever else needs to be done so we can be better prepared in the event of the bad another bad snowstorm.
I believe I've seen some correspondence here at the county that the additional funds, the repaving of the county roads is actually going to be going up from like 22 or 23 miles, which had been originally projected, to now about 33 miles, which is more than the county has repaved in a number of years. Earlier in the year, the board began working on a study involving the Morris County Park Police and the possibility of creating a county police department in which the county park police would be moved. In May, the board dropped that study. Let's back up a little bit, though.
Yes.
What led to the study in the first place, John?
Well, shared services was always an issue that was prominent in my mind and definitely prominent in the mind of the Freeholder Board. In fact, we created a Shared Services Advisory Committee. One of the things that I ran on when I campaigned for Freeholder was shared services. One example is to possibly find different ways of sharing services or equipment or manpower between departments. In particular, one thing that was continuously discussed was perhaps between the sheriff's office and park police, perhaps sharing manpower, sharing a piece of equipment and whatnot. Long story short, it morphed into a law enforcement study group, who ultimately, which by the way I was not a member of, which ultimately came up with a recommendation of creating a Morris County Police.
So the freeholders, after looking at that recommendation, decided that that was not the way to go.
Correct.
So what led to that decision?
Basically, there was a split in the board. The split in the board was public. It was 4-3. We took a vote back in February, I believe it was the February 26th, correct me if I'm wrong, freeholder meeting, where we voted 4-3. The board voted 4-3 to move forward with studying this plan and maybe begin putting down some of the planks towards achieving that goal. It received a lot of fight back. And we're not talking about law enforcement fight back, which is usually the case. People immediately assume law enforcement's going to fight it. The fight back was from average, everyday citizens, whether they were Republican, Democrat, unaffiliated. A lot of the split on the board had to do with the way the process was conducted. Also, a lot of the split on the board had to do with not enough data on this issue. That was one of the main reasons why I voted no. I didn't have any information to make a decision. And another reason was I didn't get elected to increase the size of government. Hopefully, I can always try to maintain it and constrain the growth of government. And we did not know how much more brass was going to get hired with this county police department. Again, we did not know what the expenses were going to be. Again, did not have adequate data. And in May, I made a motion, the first freeholder meeting in May, I made a motion to reverse the February vote. And it did pass 7-0. I figured if we vote by motion to move forward with it, we should also vote by motion to go back with it.
So this is, for now, this is a dead issue.
For now, and my intentions is forever, dead issue.
You are also a part of a what's called internally a transparency work group that the freeholders established, trying to increase the transparency in county government.
Yes.
What are some of the things that this group has accomplished since it was established?
It's been a wonderful experience. The number I know I say it all the time, but the number one goal of transparency when I decided to bring the issue up in the county was, if you spend a nickel, the people should know. It was totally data driven. I wanted every single thing that we spent, whether it was check registers, change orders, budgets, full budgets, not the small DCA regulated ones. I'm talking about full budgets. Everything needs to be online. What happened was it morphed into something greater, which is someone brought up the fact of, well, in addition to numbers, people should know how county government works. The bond, the Moody's and Standard & Poor's process for bond ratings, how county government works, how a budget is created. Basically, the transparency work group has morphed this thing into something where taxpayers will know everything about county government, not only about how it works, but where every dime is spent.
And also as a part of that group came out of the audio recordings of freeholder meetings are now available on the county website.
Absolutely.
So if a person cannot make a freeholder meeting, they can a couple of days later listen to what actually transpired.
Yes.
Yeah. One of the other things that the freeholders did within the last year or so was take the Morris County Mosquito Commission and put it as a division of the Department of Planning and Public Works.
Yes.
What led to this decision, and will the public see any change in the county's mosquito control efforts this summer?
Good question. There was some, I don't want to say controversy, but a lot of talk and buzz about this issue. Although I was not part of it, my understanding is we had some key administrative personnel at the county look for ways to cut costs and find efficiencies, which, by the way, in my opinion, I applaud them for. One of the issues was taking the Mosquito Commission, which was a basically quasi-independent body, and put it into the county operations. And that was with the hope of having long-term savings.
And so what about the efforts to control mosquitoes, which I know is an ongoing effort, but I know Morris County over the years has done an outstanding job. Will the change affect the job that the mosquito control folks have been doing over the years?
I'm actually the liaison to the Mosquito.
That's why I'm asking. Yeah,
the Mosquito Commission. To the best of my knowledge, there has been no deleterious effect on the health and safety of the Morris County residents to date.
Yeah, and
Thank
of course
God.
with mosquitoes, who knows? Right?
Yeah,
I mean, because they don't know boundary lines.
Yes,
right?
and Joe, I just want the public to know that when we passed a resolution to do this, to basically authorize the moving of the commission into Public Works, we made it very clear in the resolution that health and safety were the first priority, and any kind of equipment or manpower, first priority would be to health and safety of the residents and not efficiencies.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned at the very beginning of the program that before you became a freeholder, you were a member of the Parsippany governing body.
Yes.
Has that helped you in terms of knowing how government works?
No. No, it has, honestly, I'm not trying to be funny. I'll tell you why. Parsippany maintains a Faulkner strong mayor.
So it's a different format.
Strong mayor format
Yeah.
that basically emulates state government. Our mayor, who I've known for 12 years now, is a personal friend of mine, basically makes all the nominations, all the appointments, runs the day-to-day operations of the township, whereas as a councilman, we were basically the legislative body.
Okay.
If you had an issue, you speak up at the meeting. Of course, speak up before a meeting too. Total different ball game being at the Freeholder Board. We're like a board of directors.
Okay.
Board of directors.
Yeah.
I'm one of 7 actually helping to shape policy, where I came from a form of government where the mayor shaped the policy.
All right.
But it's been a great experience, and it has helped. It has helped.
Freeholder Cesaro, I want to thank you very much for being with us and telling us a little bit about some of the issues that the Morris County freeholders are dealing with. Now, if you have a question about county government, you can call the Morris County Freeholders Office at 973-285-6010. You can also visit the county government website at morriscountynj.gov. I'm Joe Garifo. I want to thank you very much for being with us and invite you to tune in again next week at this time for another edition of Focus on Morris County.